If we think of a distinguishing feature of China today, it is that of the Chinese infrastructure state. And nothing has been more consistent and sustained in the past 30, 35 years than the massive investment in Chinese infrastructure. The plans, we know, date back to Sun Yat-sen. Sun Yat-sen, we've met before. You remember that he is the father of the modern infrastructure state. These are his plans for the proposed railway system of 1921. And these are the plans of China's proposed railways for 2020. Still haven't quite caught up with all that Dr. Sun had set out in his plans. And yet the Chinese government today is even more ambitious than Sun Yat-sen in the sense that even he never thought, as this map shows, of a railway from mainland China to Taiwan. But it is on Chinese plans today. I don't know if they've told our friend Ma Ying-jeou about this. China today is an infrastructure state, as we have seen, unleashed and unchecked. This is an investment that continues with ever more ambitious projects. High-speed rail that is the envy of the world, certainly the envy of me when I take American trains. China has recently opened the world's longest high-speed rail line from Beijing to Guangzhou, airports the likes of which we will never see in our lifetimes in this country. There are 45 airports planned for the next 5 years. Beijing is rumored to be planning yet another large airport, the world's largest, that will be the size, it is said, of Bermuda. Here's the Beijing subway system in 2003, the Beijing subway system in 2008, the Beijing subway system in 2013. Here in Boston, you'll remember, we have a plan to add about 4 miles to what we call the Green Line. This is our big infrastructure project, 4 miles of a 19th century trolley line. And it probably won't be built. The longest sea bridge in the world over Qingdao Bay, there in China, a network of roads extending across the empire, in this case from Turfan to Urumqi. Infrastructure and telecommunications, China Mobile makes sure that people in Kashgar get to watch the Olympics in 2008, whether they want to or not. To test this infrastructure state, I went to the farthest place in the realm that I could find, Lhasa, the most distant place, the highest place, to see if my cell phone would work there. My wife called me up from the Great Wall on the other side of the empire. I figured probably my phone won't work in Lhasa. Too high, too far away, or maybe for political reasons. But no problem whatsoever. This is an infrastructure state that works. As the Three Gorges Dam, first proposed by Sun Yat-sen, worked on under the regimes of Chiang Kai-shek and Mao Zedong and built by Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao's governments, the largest hydroelectric and water management project in world history. So if one thinks of infrastructure, there's no question, can China lead? China is leading. China does lead. This infrastructure state allowed a place like Chongqing to become a Manhattan on the Yangtze, even though 1,500 miles upriver from Shanghai. And you know that Chongqing is a Manhattan on the Yangtze if you look at this building, because the characters on the left side of the building say New York, New York. And the building is kind of shaped a bit like the Chrysler Building in New York. And it oversees Liberation Square. This is the Liberation Monument in Liberation Square in downtown Chongqing, a monument put up by Chiang Kai-shek to celebrate liberation from the Japanese, a monument that was renamed People's Liberation Monument by Mao Zedong to celebrate liberation from Chiang Kai-shek. In their days, however, there was not a Rolex clock on the top of the Liberation Monument, as there is today. And if you go to the Liberation Monument and to Liberation Square, I can guarantee you that you'll be liberated from your money by international stores such as this, or by great Chinese emporia such as this. A place of consumption without parallel, certainly in all of Western China, and a place of extraordinary entrepreneurship. Still, at the end, there will be limits, and have to be limits, to the number of roads, railroads, airports, electric lines, and amount of telecommunication bandwidth that can be delivered. This engine will likely begin to run out of steam as the current migration from country to city begins to slow. In the next 20 years, however, there will be new needs. As the population living in cities passes 60 and then 70%, and as roads expand to support the cars that at an anticipated production rate of 32 million units per year will bring. But the bottom line on infrastructure is this. Not only can China lead, China is already leading the world in infrastructure.